All right, and here we are on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive Safe Dave here with the opportunity and the privilege to be talking to Sam Watt, Safety and Compliance Manager at Etchberger Trucking, Inc. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm telling you, I'm starting the new year with the right mindset, okay? I'm just telling you, I'm getting lined up with the right mindset because we're going to start it off. One of the reasons here is we're going to start it off this year talking a little bit about safety. That's what this show's all about. This is the safest station in the nation. We do talk to other topics. We do broaden our horizons in discussing the very important issues in trucking. But really, is there anything more important in trucking than safety, Sam?
I am obligated to say no. So, no. The beautiful thing about trucking is there are a couple departments and they all have to work together. But, one of the things a lot of people overlook some of the time, unfortunately, is the safety part. So, but safety is definitely something that can get you shut down in a hurry if you ignore it. So it's very important to keep safety top of mind when you're running a trucking company.
Absolutely. And Sam, I'm just going to jump right out here and say, look, I don't care what department you work in. I don't care if you're customer service. I don't care if you're recruiting. I don't care if you're billing. I don't care if your operations, your maintenance, you name a department in here, every single department is responsible for safety. Every person in the building is a safety officer if need be, in my opinion, because we all sometimes need to look out for the other guy, need to watch out for everyone because we don't want the stupid mistakes to happen, right, Sam?
That's exactly it. I mean, I always tell people you don't have to be an expert in the safety department, but you at least have to know some of the things that have to do with safety, just so you're aware and that you're not asking people to do things that you technically can't do. So yeah, it's always good, no matter what department you're in, to have an understanding at least of safety and how it works and how you should go about it.
Let me ask you a quick question. I know you work at a trucking company, and I know you work in the safety and compliance division. How often do you meet with all the departments? I mean, honestly, how often do you sit down and have an actual meeting or a conversation with every single department, no matter who they are? I don't care if it's billing. I don't care if it's. I know you're going to have a direct line with maintenance. All right, you're going to have a direct line with operations, right? You're going to have those two right on. But how often do you have that with orientation? How often do you have that with recruiting? How often do those things are genuine safety conversations that you have, Sam?
Well, we actually do talk quite a bit. Now, the nice thing about where I'm at right now is that we are a fairly small company. So there's a couple of us that wear a couple different hats. So, if I talk to operations, I also talk to recruiting, and billing is within earshot of all of that. So, it's nice to have a smaller company. Now, I know in some bigger companies that I've been a part of, unfortunately, you don't talk to the departments as much as maybe you should. Because, like I said, it is important for everyone to know. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but even the billing department needs to know about safety pieces. Now, are they going to use it every day? No, probably not. But it's still a good idea to have a general understanding of how a trucking company works, how they operate, how does operations operate. Then, when operations is done, how does the billing operate? You need to get your bill of lading in. And then after that, how does the accounts receivable operate? I mean, you don't have to be experts in all these fields, but it's a really good idea for yourself personally to understand how the whole company comes together and works together.
Let me ask you a quick question, and it doesn't matter to me. I got a quick question for you, Sam. The CSA score for a company is pretty much the overall snapshot of their safety record, as it were, right? I mean, both from the eyes of the world to everyone else. Now,
Yep.
that doesn't speak to culture. That doesn't speak to a value system. That doesn't speak to processes. What that does, though, is that truly speaks to what the snapshot is of what, let's say, the government sees you as, right? In a pool of data. Am I far off?
No, you're right. The CSA score is like I relate it to like a credit score. Just because you might have a bad or good credit score doesn't necessarily reflect on you personally. And the same thing can be said with the CSA score. It's something like there's a couple unfortunate things that can happen to you, and it still reflects on your CSA score. So that's a good way of putting it. It's a snapshot that like the DOT will give to a company.
To me and what my experience, I always find that trends speak loudly to the other things that you're doing within the safety culture or the safety mindset of the company you're working in. Sure, you may have moments where a couple of your guys get hit for something that they shouldn't have or what have you, and it might rise it a little there for a second, but if your trends are moving in the right direction over a year, let's say, or over 2 years, and they're coming down across the board because you're implementing the right ideologies, how important is that you bring those successes in with the other departments so they can see that their work is doing well?
Well, it's important, like I said, for all the departments to work together on this. Operations is obviously a very big one when you're dealing with CSA, because the CSA scores, there's a weight to them as well, as far as, if you got a bunch of new scores, your score is going to be higher. And as it goes on, if you don't get any more CSA violations or anything like that, the more time passes, the weight of those scores goes down. So yeah, if you can make sure that, if let's say you have a couple of you guys have a speeding problem, so and this is a big piece too, why continuing education with drivers is a big thing as well, because let's say you have a speeding problem. Well, drivers might not necessarily understand the severity of that. If there's a big, if they're high above the speed limit, they see that as a knock against their driver's license, which it can be, but they don't understand the severity that goes with the company as well. So if you can get them trending in the right direction and have it start going down, that, again, that's something that operations needs to be aware of too, saying, look, you got to stop maybe, booking so many loads close together. I know that, revenue is a big thing, and I'm not, advocating against making money, but, there are times where it's like, okay, these are getting pushed too close. These guys have to drive too fast to do it. We're running into a pretty dangerous situation, not only in speeding, but with fatigue, and just, unsafe practices that we should be doing, because these are very large vehicles, as everyone is aware of. And when they crash very, very big. So it's definitely very important for everyone to kind of have an understanding of the CSA scores and how to bring them down in a safe manner and how to keep them down as well.
You talk about education as a primary source. Here I have a notation here is why do you want to make trucking a noble profession again? Do you not think that it is now?
I don't think so. I mean, that's kind of an interesting question, because at one point it definitely was. I remember my father told me, he grew up, or he was in the industry. I grew up in the industry with him. He started as a driver way back in the 70s and worked his way up to VP and general manager of different companies. But he tells me a story of his valedictorian of his high school made an announcement that he was going to be a truck driver, and he got a round of applause for that. Now, I think recently, if the valedictorian of a high school said, I'm going to be a truck driver, I don't think people would clap for that, which is kind of a shame, because the trucking industry is what I think is a fantastic industry. I've been in it for over 20 years now. I think it's a great industry. It's a very important industry. It's an over $800 billion industry. Like 70% of everything you buy is put on a truck and moved across the country. So it's extremely important. And it just seems like in the last number of years, its reputation has taken a hit. And so one of the things I am, kind of passionate about is making it a good industry again, making it a noble industry again, making it a viable industry again. For people coming out of high school, we've seen lately that college maybe isn't the answer for everybody. I'm not saying it's not, but there's definitely some people that it doesn't work for. And the trucking industry is a great one to get into, even if you're not, looking to drive. Just being in the office is also a very good way to make a living. And this is very much an industry that requires a lot of hands-on training. It requires just a lot of time. It doesn't necessarily require a formal education per se, but if you can get in the industry, get your feet wet, you'll definitely learn a lot of things about this industry and see that it really is a very good one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you a lot on the ideology and the implementation of getting guys and gals out of high school into the industry right away. I know that 21 is the necessary requirement to run interstate travel, but intrastate and certain exemptions that are being implemented by the United States government in this realm is going to help create a better world for us all, because I'm going to challenge that, Sam. College is not for everybody. It truly isn't. I mean, and just so you know, it's a great. I mean, for some, it's the path, but with the student loan programs and the amount of debt that you collect, the offset in the trade there to a good career, a great career, might necessarily be getting involved directly into trucking right away. And I really think it's important that I personally, having been in the industry a long time as a driver and as been in here in the office for years and years, I've always believed it to be a noble profession. However, it sometimes gets lost on the exceptions. And I think sometimes that's like saying, all lawyers are crooked, or all politicians lie. I mean, well, I may save the last one, but I'm just saying I truly believe that it's always been because I can't think of or know more of a greater group of people than the drivers out there on the road today. If ever you need, or the call ever goes out, rarely do they miss the call. Rarely do they shy away from the need or the want or the importance of it. Let me ask you a quick question. You said something here which I like. It says you would say we're not in a driver shortage, but in a safe truck driver shortage. Explain yourself on that.
Explain yourself. Whoa, easy. You can go out and recruit drivers. I've done recruiting in the past, and I was able to recruit drivers. Now, what the big thing is recruiting safe drivers and even safe and good drivers. I mean, I think you could combine those two words together. And those are the guys who aren't necessarily, they're not just in it. They look beyond the load that they're on. That's what I think is a safe and good driver. They run their e-logs properly. They communicate. That's a huge one. There's a lot of drivers that, something goes wrong and they just don't communicate with you, whether it's they got a flat tire or they're at a shipper and something's not right. There's just sometimes they just don't communicate. And then you get to the defensive driving piece of it too, which is where the safe part comes in. A good, safe driver will understand the conditions that they're in. I heard you guys talking earlier about all the different weather that's going on in this country, and it is absolutely ridiculous what's going on right now weather-wise. But a good, safe driver is able to look at that and look at his logs and realize that, okay, this is going to take me longer to do now, so I have to account for this. And then they do that. They get from point A to point B safely. And that's one thing that is a little bit harder to find this day and age. There's still plenty of them out there, don't get me wrong. But that needs to be the next challenge now in recruiting, is finding guys that can drive these trucks safely. And that is a little bit of a challenge. But again, they're out there, and that's where the education piece comes in too. I know there's a lot of driving schools that are teaching this very well. And I've even seen a couple examples recently of drivers, standing up and saying, no, I'm not going to do this. It's not safe to do it that way. And yeah, some people might kind of hem and haw at that, but at the end of the day, I would rather have that than a guy going, no, I can blaze through that winter storm and get there on time, and then they end up in a ditch, they end up rolled over, then you have a massive amount of headaches, all right? Let alone just that the load's going to be late now. Now you got product that's going to be rejected. You got trailer and truck that's going to need repair. You need to get them back onto the road, literally get them towed back up, which is going to cost a small fortune to do. So I would rather guys be more defensive, drive safely, and make it there on time so that we don't have to worry about all that other stuff that would happen if they try to plow through bad weather.
Let me just tell you, in having the pendulum is for me, and in my role over the last 15 years, and in doing and also implementing safety. I'll tell you, no longer are the days with a driver where the braggadocio of I can run 4,000 miles a week, and I don't care. I want to know how many safe miles you can run a week. That's all I care about. That you tell me how many safe miles you're going to run, and I'll tell you that and that to me, and by the way, when you said a good, safe driver, I feel like you're using the same word twice, because safe is good and good is safe. So if you're a safe driver, you're automatically a good driver. How many people out there today, Matt, and I'm going to ask you, Sam, how many of them actually say I'm a bad driver? I'm not, how many of us in the real world say I'm not that good of a driver? We're all really good drivers, aren't we? If you ask everybody, it's like going to prison and asking if any of them are innocent, aren't they? Wouldn't they all tell you that they're innocent? Pretty much. So I find it. I truly believe in what you're saying in the idea that safe miles is the only miles. It's the good miles. It's the only way we need to go forward. So let's talk about education. You've got you have something called Wattsman Diesel House. Well, explain what that is. Tell me what that is.
So that is a website I've started that explains the trucking industry and explains some of the little things that go on in it. I've been absolutely blessed in my life in that, like I said, my father started off driving truck back in the 70s. I'm the reason he got off the road, because when I was born, he's like, I should be home a little more often. And so he's worked his way up from driver to dispatcher to customer service, and then all the way up to VP and general manager. All those steps of the way, he has kind of brought me along with. So I've been able to really get a front row view of all that. And then, in the late 90s, I started working in trucking companies as well. And so all along the way, I've been able to get all this information that I've just been kind of storing away. And I've realized in the last couple months or so, in talking with other people, that everything that I thought was just kind of useless information, about the industry or information that everybody knew, is not the case. And you can go and read books or read articles, and they'll give you all the data with the trucking companies and how that all works. But what I've noticed is people really have enjoyed kind of like personal stories, and like, okay, yes, you can do this, but will it really work? With recruiting, you can take recruiting, for example. You can blast the recruiting boards, put your ad out there, but that doesn't really work. This works, because we've had real life experience at that. So it's basically just a website that I've started that just kind of gathers all this information, all this story, even as simple as how much should a truck weigh? A lot of people are getting into this industry that don't know that answer. So it's just a lot of this information that I've had, that I've been blessed with to have a father that really brought me along for the journey. And I'm just starting to kind of write articles about it and make videos about that, and just trying to help educate, because we've seen a massive influx of new people in the trucking industry in the last 5 years or so. And it's great. I think more people should be getting into the industry. And a lot of times they're getting thrown in and saying, here, do the job. And kind of like what we talked about earlier, they're not understanding, how billing works with operations, and how maintenance works with safety, and all that kind of stuff, and how they all need to work together. They're just being taught how to do their particular job, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know how the whole company in general works. So it's just a lot of information that I've had in the back of my mind that I didn't realize was valuable. And I'm finding out is. And so I've started collecting all this and start writing it out, and hopefully to educate the next generation that's coming in on how a trucking company works, what actually works, what doesn't work. Some of the things that you need to have on top of mind, some of the things that maybe aren't as important as people want them to think they are. So that's what I've just developed all that to kind of give that information away.
Sam, how do you get to this? How do you get to that website?
WatsmanDieselhouse.com is the web address for that.
Okay, good. And anybody can go there and just get the information, and the subscription is not very much. Is that what you're going to tell us?
There's no subscription to it. It's just it's brand new, so like there's still a lot of stuff that's going to be put on there. But yeah, it's just a baby site right now, but it's all free. I'm just throwing all this stuff out there, hopefully in hopes that people learn and are educated and entertained by it.
Well, Sam, I do appreciate you coming on today and talking to us and bringing us some new information. I hope everybody gets an opportunity to go out there to WatsmanDieselhouse.com and look at, add to, or even throw some ideas Sam's way if necessary. Sam, I do appreciate you coming in here. I ask everybody before they go from our interview, I ask you to state your name, who you're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for me?
Well, I am Sam Watts. I am the Safety and Compliance Manager for Etchberger Trucking and the founder of Watsman Diesel House. And you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in trucking.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam. We do appreciate you. Happy New Year, sir.
You as well.
All right. Thank you.